run, then why take an Uber back to the hideout? She asked. He's avoided capture for so many years, snuck into this country without detection, and he gets sloppy now? Just before an attack? It doesn't make sense. Jackson spun around in his chair with a sneer. Listen, sweetheart. His voice dripped with condescension, and she narrowed her eyes. We know you're excited to be up here with the big boys, but you need to learn your place, and right now that's for you to shut the fuck up and let the grown-ups talk. That's enough, Jackson, Harris barked, and then immediately regretted the strain on his throat. He hacked, and then took another drink of water as the scarred man faced front again. Officer, it's a great question, but ultimately a moot point, because we are going in now. I want everyone geared up and ready to go in 15. Let's get it done. He turned off the projector, and the lights came back up. The strike team stood and bustled out of the room, the two officers standing off to the side and out of the way to await Harris ambling over to them. He leaned on the backs of one of the chairs, taking a deep, shaky breath. What's your name, officer? Harris addressed the man, who stood at attention. Officer Antonio Cruz, sir. Cruz, fantastic. What's your story? Harris asked. Ex-Marine, 2 years in Iraq, spent the last 5 years on Dallas SWAT before coming here. Cruz listed off his history. Why aren't you on the SWAT team here, Cruz? Harris raised an eyebrow. I transferred in about 3 weeks ago, and they felt I needed to go through some exercises with the team before being put into the field, he replied stiffly. Supposed to be wrapped up next week. So you're highly trained and professional. Harris mused and cleared his throat, taking a sip of his water, emptying the bottle. I like it. Report to Agent Jackson. He's the big asshole who doesn't take kindly to questions from rookies. Yes, sir. Cruz nodded in approval and turned on his heel, leaving the room like a bird taking flight. And that brings us to you, my inquisitive officer, Harris continued, turning to the redhead, who was standing casually with her arms crossed. What's your name? Lacy Sparks, sir, she replied. Nice to meet you, Sparks, he said with a nod. So tell me, what's your story? Why out of everyone in the building were you brought to me? I spent 3 years on the prison use of force team, she began, but Harris put a hand up, clearing his throat. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but use of force team? He asked. Yeah, whenever an inmate was being a pouty little bitch and didn't want to come out of his cell for an inspection, I was on the team that would go in and remove him. Sparks shrugged, as if it wasn't any big deal, but Harris raised an eyebrow. Impressive, he mused, and crossed over to the water cooler in the corner. I can't imagine too many women have that job. I was the 3rd woman in the history of the prison to have it, Sparks replied. Very good, Harris said as he refilled his water bottle. Please continue. I decided I wanted more than the prison life, so I went to the academy, graduated 3rd in my class before I became a hand-to-hand combat instructor there, she said. Been at this precinct for 1.5 years, trying to get on the SWAT team, but it's a good old boys club and breaking through is tough to do. So to take out my frustrations, I'm a wrestler and current middleweight title holder with the South Texas Wrestling promotion. Wrestler, huh? Harris wheezed but smiled. Okay, pop quiz. Who is the greatest of all time? The correct answer is Ric Flair, Sparks replied without hesitation. Unless, of course, you find yourself in the company of some old-timers in Dallas, in which case the correct answer better include a Von Erich. That... Harris stowed the bottle in his armpit and politely clapped his hands. That is the correct answer. Intelligence plus self-preservation. I think you are going to do well on my team. I mean, how can I go wrong with the women's champion of South Texas wrestling? Sparks straightened a little bit and quietly added, Just champion, sir. He blinked at her in confusion. I won a 3-way Texas death match against the Dudek brothers, she explained and pulled up her sleeve to reveal a 3-inch scar on her upper arm. It's how I got this. Ouch, Harris winced. Yeah, that cowbell is a bitch, she agreed. But I won the match and claimed the belt for the 3rd time. My apologies, Sparks. He put up his hands in surrender. You are way more hardcore than I initially gave you credit for. Welcome to the team.